Survivor, probably one of the greatest game shows that I have ever seen to this day. The concept is simple. A group of survivors get split into 2 to 3 different tribes and are then put onto their own island or location to survive. Apart from having to build social relationships, survivors are essentially battling nature and have to create shelters, find resources, play against one another, and seek out advantages to improve their gameplay. Throughout the game, challenges will be hosted for immunity and rewards. If a tribe loses the immunity challenge, then they are forced to go to tribal council. There, everyone can cast a vote against whoever they want out of the game. The player who receives the most votes gets eliminated, as their torch is snuffed out and so is their dream to win $1 million. While sometimes people are forced to swap tribes and forge new alliances, the game always has a merge phase. This is when all tribes unite to form one.
And it's the merge! To make it to the point where you all get to be on one beach and it becomes an individual game feels like such an accomplishment.
Now, immunity challenges are no longer for tribes, but instead for individuals. This shifts the game into a whole other stage, as people really now have to focus on their bonds, individual performances in challenges, and attitude around camp. One wrong move or saying the wrong thing will get you eliminated. Castaways who get voted out at this point of the game usually become a member of the jury. Once there are only 2 to 3 castaways left, the remaining pledge their cases to the jury as to why they think they deserve to win. Then, each member of the jury casts a vote for who they think is the rightful winner, which is then tallied up. Survivor is a great show, let's face it, and who could forget the handsome Jeff Probst, who I swear has not even aged after 20 damn years. Today, we'll be breaking down Survivor and seeing if it's all what it's lived up to be. We'll be talking about any drama, stages, and trends we can see throughout the game. However, it seems like there are now 2 phases of the game, Old School Survivor and New School Survivor. What is the difference, you may ask? Well, Old School Survivor relied more on the player's social game, as there were not many idols or advantages at the time. This means that players really had to form relationships and spend more time talking with one another. Also, I've noticed that the editing is arguably a lot different. Before, they would show more interaction and overall time spent surviving or doing leisure activities. Now, some could say that Survivor has evolved into a whole other game. Strategy has completely taken over, with twists and advantages being added left to right. Some notable ones are Edge of Extinction, a place where voted out castaways go to survive, before having a chance to rejoin the game by competing in a challenge. Then there are idol nullifiers, which I will forever hate.
This is a hidden immunity idol. This is the idol nullifier. This nullifier was played against Dan. Oh my God.
Wow. Whoa.
Dan, your idol has no power. Any votes cast against Dan will still count.
So, after someone's hard work of obtaining an immunity idol, I find it extremely rude to play an idol nullifier, because that means you've just squandered their chance and they could go home after rightfully having earned an advantage. And most recently, fire tokens have been making a presence, which is a currency that survivors can use to purchase other advantages. I mean, the list above, even though it's short, it's already quite extensive, and when I say there are a lot of advantages, I really mean it. At one point, a fan favorite castaway got eliminated by default. I'm so sorry, Siri, because everyone else had immunity or played an idol. Talk about bad luck.
As you become the first person in 34 seasons to be voted out simply because there literally is no other choice. There's no need to revote.
I've noticed that the more recent seasons have a final 3 instead of a final 2. This changes the entire dynamic because this can completely shift alliances and also how you approach the game. Also, this new fire making challenge has been introduced when there are only 4 players left. This is when the winner of the recent immunity challenge, who basically has secured a spot in the final, chooses 2 other players to have a fire making showdown. Whoever isn't chosen is also saved a spot in the final, and whoever wins the fire making challenge is the last finalist. The funny thing is that the winner of the immunity challenge can actually give up their immunity and give it to another player, making themselves go against someone else in a fire-making challenge. Most of you might think that this is a stupid move, and I'll admit that I actually did too in the beginning, but this was actually done by Chris Underwood in season 38, Edge of Extinction.
I am offering up my immunity necklace, giving it to Julie.
For real?
This is yours, Julie, and I will be making fire against Rick Devens tonight.
I personally prefer the old school Survivor, as I feel that there are too many advantages in the game now and it can actually dilute the gameplay. I'll admit some of the new school Survivors are really interesting and I really enjoy the gameplay, but sometimes I feel like the twists are too absurd and we need to tone down the shock factor a little bit. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with just how much of an impact editing can have. When done correctly, it can completely change the viewer's perception of a person. Editors can cut scenes out while combining others to create this kind of story. Many winners receive something called a winner's edit, where they are shown to make great plays or are hidden under the radar until later on. The more unfortunate castaways sometimes get purple edits, which paint them as a villain or make them extremely unlikable. Sometimes, scenes don't even make sense because they're cut to look a certain way. Winners at War. The editing was horrendous there and kind of tricked us as viewers. Lots of drama wasn't shown while people were wrongfully cast in a bad light, like Wendell.
Nope.
Early though, babe.
You don't mean to just be talking to you the first time, like the first minute on this island.
Okay.
Or do you?
Let me explain. For those of you who don't know, Winners of War made Michelle and Wendell, two exes, seem at odds with one another. This made Wendell seem like a complete jerk when Michelle tried to talk to him. In reality, they were totally cool with one another and had a solid alliance. Another incident happened where Natalie had the chance to give a castaway, who was still in the game, a special advantage. She gave one to Nick, claiming it was from Wendell on the note. There was some footage that never aired where she asked Wendell if she could do so. He asked for some fire tokens in return and she refused, saying that she wouldn't do it, when it was later revealed by Nick that she did in fact put Wendell's name down. Of course, we as viewers don't know this because it had been cut from the show. What good would a show be without a healthy dose of controversy? Well, there's plenty where that comes from. As mentioned before, the editing itself can already be considered quite controversial, as people can be made out to have absurd personalities. On the other hand, sometimes people do really just behave crazily. It shouldn't come as a surprise that the production team has huge control over the game. I mean, they have to make a good story so people will remain invested in the show. I get that. However, they've been apparently doing more, as there have been reports that some survivors actually received special treatment, like being given food or unfair advantages. Surprisingly, almost no castaways have been kicked out of the game. That was until season 39, Island of the Idols. Dan, a castaway that had made it past the merge, had been booted for inappropriate behavior with a cast member. A few people have been questioning why this didn't happen sooner, especially because fellow castaway Kelly, among others, have been talking about how Dan made them uncomfortable. Was this for drama's sake, or could the production team not have cared less and turned a blind eye? Recently though, it's becoming more and more common to pre-game. This means the castaways who are going to star in the next season of Survivor reach out to one another beforehand and plan together. This could be really unfair to the others, as starting off the game with already made alliances gives you a huge advantage. Sometimes, playing with friends can be a complete disaster though. Season 8 All-Stars had Boston Rob and Lex play against one another. They were good friends outside of the game, but Rob had backstabbed Lex after making a deal. This put a severe strain on their friendship, which is why I think that pre-gaming and using pre-existing relationships isn't a great move. Sandra, a two-time winner, also fell victim to this, as she gave her idol to Denise and was then voted out by her. In fact, Denise was the only one that voted for Sandra, while everyone else had gone for Denise, who actually played Sandra's idol, so that was really tragic. Some people think that Survivor is fake, and I can't blame them for that. But I do believe that it is completely real, as there have been a lot of shocking differences in physical appearances afterwards. I mean, makeup is great and all, but you can't fake that. If you don't get enough resources and are practically just living off fruit and rice, your physical health will decline rapidly. Some could say it's a danger zone for eating disorders and injuries even after the game. I mean, I've seen contestants lose a lot of weight. Challenges can also be quite dangerous, with there being a few medical evacuations having taken place. This isn't really the show's fault though, as getting a stroke or seeing an injury isn't something you can exactly predict. Luckily, the medical team is always on standby. Matt, a contestant from the Australian Survivor, made a comment about the game. Playing Survivor basically strips you back not only physically but mentally, and you are very exposed to a lot of elements that may impact you mentally. I can see how a social game like this can have a huge psychological impact on people. Trusting someone, only to have them completely betray you, can be something very difficult to get over. It starts to translate into real life and you question if those around you are telling the truth. I believe that several contestants talked about this, and Spencer, having been a castaway in multiple seasons of Survivor, started his own podcast redeeming this order. And that's pretty much all I'm going to cover in this video. It's actually my first one, so if you enjoyed, please subscribe and leave a like. If you have future video suggestions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. I hope you guys have a great day, stay safe, and I shall see you guys later.